Well, thank you, High Commissioner. That was a very detailed expose on the potentials, as you say, of Pakistan, and you did a very good job providing us a lot of details. In fact, we would actually need a lot of time to digest it all.
Yes,
but we've got what we call the hang of it, in the sense that despite what is very apparent difficulties that Pakistan may be facing today in other spheres, we are pleased to see that the economy is on a positive track, and this is the Jim O'Neill prediction that I have talked about earlier. I will now open the floor for discussions, questions, answers, comments around the table. The floor is open, and do identify yourself for record. Well, we have an aap pehle situation. Okay, Dinkin.
People are very knowledgeable in Pakistan.
Thank you.
Well, you have added to our knowledge, but yeah.
My name is Dinkin from ISIS. You've given us a very comprehensive picture of the opportunities that Pakistan holds. I was particularly impressed about the growth happening in the mining sector and also the type of energy, the hydro projects that's happening. So what we see elsewhere is that these are also quite controversial in a sense that given Pakistan has a thriving civil society, developing democracy and a very free media. So there are these issues around community, stakeholders and all these things. So can you tell us a bit more about that? And I have a second question, which is if you could explain a bit more about, say, investment processes. I'm also aware that while you're given a picture of Pakistan as a whole, there are different states which have jurisdiction over different things. So say if one was to invest in Pakistan, do they go to the chief ministers or do they go to the federal government?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, first question, basically with regard to the civil society and media, I'm sure you must be following the television or which is available on the live streaming as well as the electronic media. On the subjects of, just to give you an example, it is a serious issue once you especially go for a project. Now internationally, I'll take up coal, which is a controversial because many of the international bodies are not comfortable at all. And if you go for clean coal technology, some people are not comfortable to share the technology with you, and all those are there. And that is why I think we are not getting support from the World Bank on all those. The purpose of this thing, because in certain countries it's a big issue. Now we have a reservoir, and some countries in the world are already using this. So why not, if somebody is using it, we should also continue and utilize the whatever we have with us. The area where it is located, just to give an example, is the most scarcely populated area. Basically, to direct impact in the area, it's not. And with modern technology, I'm sure the powerhouses and all, the environmental pollution and all those things will be much more controlled as compared to the olden days. And you just burn it out and let it go. Though Pakistan is not in that number, which environmentally affecting. We don't have those huge industries of anything. So that way. We have no issue with regard to, in some countries, for example, in Australia, nuclear related things are very important. So in Pakistan, as such, because the main thing is demand and supply, and as I mentioned, we have a mixed bag. There's a huge demand because industry plus the people suffer if there's no energy. So we have to do a lot of load management, in which directly affects, and they come on the road, why this has not been provided for. So I think maybe another 3-4 years, once we balance out, and they'll be able to have a reality check that how we can work on it, and maybe the advantage in it. We at this stage we really can't comment what will be the after effects on this. A starter industry will definitely. Similarly, hydro. I'll just give you, because once you go for that, you have to do a lot of acquisition of lands, and it affects people. 2 big dams, Mangla and Tarbela. I'll give you an example of Tarbela. Big cities went underwater. The city of Mirpur in Azad Kashmir area. The old city is right in the water. It's only when the water level goes down you can see a few of the buildings coming up. And so at that time, a lot of compensation was the issue. Now new areas have been acquired. Now judicial activism has come up. People are going for compensation, not for the present but for their future generations also. And certain cases, the verdicts have been given that the compensation given them should be not only catering them and coming, so which is a very difficult proposition in order to the cost of the whole project goes up. That way, I think it's a big issue. Now coming over to the investment part of it, we have a federal board of investment, and similarly we have board of investments in the province of Sindh, in Punjab, and Khyber. The provincial governments also have their the board of investments, which have similar policies in which all the guidelines are already given. Now, depending on the investor which goes, now that he wants to go to a project done by the federal government, then the federal government definitely will be involved and they'll be doing the thing. And if it has been handled by the provincial government, naturally it will be. But most of them information, but if you have any particular thing, I can definitely provide you more detailed information. But that, you don't have to go to the Chief Minister. It is the set SOPs have been set, and how the process has to be started is the board of investments are the starting point. They are the ones who will guide and give the information, because they have readily available feasibilities of projects and other presentations, a lot of things, and then they can organize the meetings back to back on ground whenever they want to go and see those things.
Well, yeah, another sort of a small footnote to what the High Commissioner is saying about Mirpur and Tarbela. Tarbela, by the way, dates back to the 60s, if I remember right. Mirpur has gone under. It's the Atlanta of Pakistan in many ways. But what has happened to the people is most of them have gone abroad. And as a result, in another way, the remittances that are coming into Pakistan are from Mirpuris, people of Mirpur who live abroad.
That's the way, because now it's the third generation Mirpuris there, so many of them, I don't know if they still have the connection. The Mangla people went to that area, and we have a huge community in the Scandinavia and also Norway.
Yes.
And similarly, I can talk of the Tarbela area. That was the time in the 70s when people went to the Middle East.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's one interesting fact I would say, that somehow the people, whatever they earned, they brought it back and made houses or whatever. So it really came back to the economy, rural economy and all this. This is what can be seen, especially I can mention that the wheat support price was increased to a very high level, and which had a direct impact. The government purchased the wheat directly without a middleman. So the money went directly into the economy, and then it could be seen on ground, the development with regard to their own livelihoods.
And also, when these hydel projects began, there was no civil society in the 60s. And in any case, the need for energy is so great that and so preponderant that even those objections that you are speaking of, I mean, sometimes is overridden. I mean, and this is widely understood in the civil society that some of these projects are necessary, which includes the nuclear power projects in Kanif and Chashma. Yes, Dr. Nitin Pandit.
Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary. Your Excellency, that was a very enlightening presentation, and I want to, I actually have two questions. So, firstly, I wanted to pick up a point that you mentioned, which I thought was very significant, the fact that Pakistan has got the GST plus preference in the European Union market. I wanted to have your views on whether there are any concerns in Pakistan over loss of access in the North American market, because this is increasingly becoming a major issue for all developing economies from South Asia, because there is a strong reliance on textile and garment exports. Now, historically, a country like Bangladesh, for example, and even India and Pakistan have not been getting as much of discriminatory preference in the North American market as the African and Caribbean exporters. Now the TPP is about to come in. The GSP is being reviewed. So, are these major concerns? Because the last USTR review found that Bangladesh was not suitable for the GSP preferences. So, is there a concern in Pakistan over the fact that access to the North American market might go in the medium term, and that would affect exports? my second question is connected to this, that if you could elaborate a little bit on the kind of free trade agreements that Pakistan is negotiating right now with various countries of the world.
Okay, GSP Plus. We know we have to work very hard to get that, and since I was in the Foreign Office, one of the Director General handling, and we had to follow the 27 conventions, and the most important is the death penalty thing. I'm sure you must have read in the media, a lot of things were there. So it's a big. Now, what has been happening basically, EU is had been historically a biggest partner to of that area, and some or the other, our industries or the businessmen, probably they are comfortable in their own zones when they don't really want to change or those things. With USA, what I can say on bilateral thing with the impacts. For example, many a time, and our leadership has always been saying that we are not in aid, go for trade. But things there have been too protective, especially with regard to USA. I'll give an example of the term ROZs. You must have heard that this was basically once one operation was going on and all, and this was with regard to our tribal areas. There was a kind of a plan or a project that things produced in that particular area zones will be given special preference without any tech duty, and it just went on paper and nothing materialized. So I think those are the factors. I think with US market, since I'm not familiar with the whole review thing which you are mentioning on that, this will, it's too early because GSP is 1 year was not passed even yet. So the only thing is what happens that in terms of quotas, you get a lot of quotas, but people are unable to fulfill. I can talk of because the Pakistan-Sri Lanka FTA thing negotiation, I was part of the thing. I was the acting High Commissioner in Colombo at that time. And they were asking for this number, or even Bangladesh, I remember during the SARC, a fixed number was, but the capacity of the exporter was not there to really, come up to that expectations. The number thing, I think these are all expectations unless our own business community does a lot of value addition and the demand is there. Basically, that is because our expertise, I think we are much better in the bed linen and other sectors. They two places we have an edge in terms of the textile. But there are many other branches which we have just not gone into. I've seen the list. I don't have the exact the terminologies and all, but I think as I mentioned, they will have to deviate and get into other sectors in order to expand, because somehow the other maybe the mentality or something is they don't want to they go out of their comfort zones. That could be I think the reason. And with regard to USA, I think only until we know the outcome or result from the GSP after a year, that where do we stand, the figures will then really be able to. And because there, I think it will be more on bilateral basis with USA, what happening in the region, because we are going bilateral to each country. With regard to FTA, as I mentioned, Pakistan, Sri Lanka FTA is already there. There are a few other countries in which there are other different forms of. I'll give you an example of Pakistan Singapore thing is also in the pipeline, which is working. Negotiations went on a certain rounds. There's still some things which have been discussed. The pace has gone a little slow. Maybe some stage we'll move on that, because over the period things vary, and the interest of the countries or the requirements or demands become a little difficult. That you're not able to on for example, rule of origin thing. It's difficult. You can't. I remember we had a huge discussion with Sri Lanka with rule of origin thing. The percentage was not being worked out and all. We are working. We have a trade preferential system with China. We are working with Malaysia, or for example, similar pattern is the with regard to currency also, that on the similar basis. So I don't have the exact list right now in the pipeline, but there are a few countries on which we are concentrating, based on what that if our trade figures are really, we'll be able to get a boost or something. I think that is how it stands.
What would be, to the both of you, the plus in the GSP plus? Is it the rules of origin, or what is relaxed in GSP plus? And how GSP plus is according to about 14 countries, am I right?
Everything but arms.
Everything EBA. But GSP Plus itself is accorded to 14 countries.
Yeah, actually the GSP was, as you recall, for the whole group of developing countries.
Yeah.
So they have been narrowed down,
Yeah.
selectively in terms of tariff plans, checking individual countries' competitiveness in this tariff.
But what is the plus factor? I mean,
The plus factor is a limited and deeper coverage
okay.
as compared with the GSP, which was much broader and relatively shallow. This is a limited and deeper coverage. LDC is going, but other developing countries selectively, like along with Pakistan, Paraguay has been part of this scheme.
Yes, and just also another in response to your this thing about Bangladesh and GSP America. Actually, the preferential treatment covers only 3% of the textile of the garment export to America. So, you know, I mean, that does not affect the actual quantums in terms of trade so much. But of course, 3% is 3%. Yes, Mr. Suryanarayana.
Thank you very much. It was an excellent
Closer.
presentation. I just wanted to find out, do you have an update on trading relations with India, given the controversies of the recent times? Plus, the investment from China, which you mentioned, might be of the order of 35 billion USD. Is that only for China-Pakistan economic corridor, or is it an overall investment from China in Pakistan? And what about the civil nuclear component in terms of Chinese investments in Pakistan? And finally, I don't want to politicize, but for the map you showed and also the tourism visuals, has Azad Kashmir or AJK, has it been formally incorporated as a province of Pakistan? Thank you.
To answer the last question first, no, it's not that status. The name is very much, they have their own government and everything. The status, it is a disputed territory under the UN thing, and whatever happens, it will be decided according to those things. So much can be said on it, so I will not like to work on that. Now, with regard to the trade data, I don't have an exclusive data on with India, but definitely it is on the rise. You see, the 2 weeks back, we had a huge exhibition in New Delhi, you know, with the name of Alishan Pakistan. Textile industry was there, and we had a huge full-fledged exhibition. So, with regard to the activity, the crossing point at Wagah border, they've added up additional cargo terminals, and now it's working on 24-hour basis. So, and the figures, if you are interested, I can get you, and those are there. So there's no controversy. It's its own compartment, and the trade, trade only comes in only if it is decided that no more trade and close the doors, and that's all. If that happens, that's another story. But that is not the issue. The trade, basically, whatever is done under the bilateral umbrella, whatever has been done under the SAFTA thing, under the SARC, so those lists have been negotiated bilaterally and exchanged also between all the member countries. So that it is available document, and the lists are there on the SARC website and as well on the country's website. So that way there's no issue as such. And what else was? China. Yeah, the China thing, I think the figure which I was just mentioning is, now ones which were announced, I remember I had mentioned to Rohal Saab also in my interview once, which was published on the 14th of August. These were the projects which were like under the standing committee in the parliament. It was announced and the projects were given. Now, nuclear power projects basically are not covered because that is a separate thing in this. These are more to do. Now, what we are talking about is that these are the ones which have been announced activities, projects with regard to the road communication or the energy-based thing or telecommunication. So those investments are the ones which make a component. I can definitely provide you the whole breakdown and like what sector is what that can be. But economic corridor is not a short-term program. It's like spanning from 5 years to 10 years project. What we are looking at is, as I mentioned in the beginning, a transit for the Central Asian states as well as the Xinjiang region of China. Because our sea route and is the shortest with regard to and I hope and wish that things improve in Afghanistan. this connectivity is very important for us because Oman transit trade is done through us. And the last agreement under which Pakistan has a right or have been given a right to get into Central Asia. So it's a kind of an arrangement which we really have to. We are just separated by a small Wakhan corridor up in the north. It's about the shortest point is about 6 or 7 kilometers. We can touch Tajikistan, where you have the Pamir highway made by the Russians is already. So a lot of activities are already there, but trade definitely with China is on the up now. The more companies are coming in, and as I mentioned, when the visit takes place, there will be more projects being announced on government basis as well as the private sector will be coming up with it.
Actually, I think the technical this thing for Kashmir is Azad Government of Kashmir. That's, I think, the technical
Now it's
term.
AJK.
Yeah, Azad Government
Azad.
of Kashmir. Azad, anyway. On the MFN, Most Favored Nation, which is, of course, a WTO accepted category, Most Favored Nation. But the Urdu translation, unfortunately, of Most Favored Nation is Sabse Pasand Mulk or something. Pasandida.
But just to tell you this MFN is just a terminology.
Yeah.
The trade is going on, nothing is stopping. If you look at the figures even, whether with that status or not, that will not really change the scenario.
And Sabse Pasandida
The
countries not
figures
apply to each other.
it basically the trade is demand and supply driven.
Yeah.
If those, the only concern from our side has been the businessman community basically is the tariff barriers on the side, because on the one point you're given access and then suddenly there are more taxations at the back of it. So though that is the one. We are talking of openness in terms of trade and all those. Like any other sector, every business community has its own reservation. Some say, no, that's a big market, and some say, no, we'll be flooded. So we know the way during the GSP talks, how each country had to be convinced, because each country's member of parliament of European were being followed by their groups. I know the Italians were not comfortable and all, and we really had to work very hard on them, because they thought that their textile sector were, everybody wants to protect. Like French are very protective of their agro industry. So those kind of, so we, the countries definitely like to, but keeping in balance whatever is available.
Okay, the last part. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. High Commissioner, with regard to the $30 billion plus investment from China in infrastructure, the no-show by the Chinese president, how much of a setback is it?
Nothing. We were already in negotiations with, we talked, because we never wanted
But the
them,
agreements have not been signed, right, which was supposed to be
No,
signed?
those basically discussions, everything is on. It has been postponed. The dates have to be set. It doesn't mean that it's been cancelled. It's not cancelled. It's been postponed because the government thought at that juncture, because the two political parties were sitting right in front of the parliament, so that should not have been a good show. So we thought, I think that's it. But it's very much in the pipeline.
But do we have new dates, like when the visit
No,
might take
not
place?
yet.
Or
Not
this
yet.
agreement
Not
will
yet.
be
But
signed
I think hopefully soon. I think before the end of the year.
within this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, for Pakistan and China, these visits are only very symbolic, but substantively, as the High Commissioner is saying, they will make no impact whatsoever in relations. Yeah.
Okay. Sir, currently the Singapore government heavily incentivizes e-commerce and tech sort of businesses to flourish in Singapore, but could you comment on this industry in Pakistan, e-commerce and tech industries, and what the government may have done to boost these kind of businesses to grow?
I think other than the federal government, the provincial governments have done more on it. Punjab government has, they built up some IT parks and all those kind of works are going on. One is the working of the government itself. We talk of e-governance and all those things. The younger generation or the modern office staff, are they getting used to an unsigned copy of a paper and all those?
Yeah.
But for the people who have been working and on signed paper, it's very difficult to get out of that thing. I've been very open about it. So that is there. And how secure the whole system is. But Pakistan basically, as I mentioned, with regard to the telecommunication and all those things, what is happening here. Online, for example, purchases and all those, that's a big thing which has come in Pakistan, and it's really doing good business. Mm-hmm. And over the period, our younger lot, basically, youngsters have done great things. There are companies which are like not very high profile, but they're doing great work, software work for American companies and all those things. There are certain places, I'll just mention, other than that even, there was a time, I remember there's a small place in Wazirabad, the guys used to make daggers for the American Marines. So, the small industry is huge, and similarly there's these e-commerce thing. It's going to be, I think, the government basically, we do have an IT division, a whole ministry for this purpose. We have the lady is heading that, and she's very much working on it. But at the end of the day, it is the private sector which has to work. The government, I think, is facilitating, but we really need to, I think, work more on it. More of the initiatives have been on the private sector, I would say, whatever people have done. But any new initiative definitely will be welcomed.
Thank you.
Yes, okay. You and then Mr. Ho.
Just a short one.
Yeah.
From your presentation, I kind of got this feeling that textiles and mining are the primary sectors for trade and investment. I may be wrong. So what I would want from you is, what are those 2 or 3 industries that you would say that have the maximum potential for growth in employment, since you quoted the figure of 900,000 new jobs? So which are those 1 or 2 industries that have the maximum potential to drive this goal?
I think,
Shall we take this also?
Yep.
So we can, Mr. Ho.
Sorry, I just noticed from your presentation, you have a big electric power deficit within the country itself. Now, and you're also building up nuclear power stations to support that. Now, between now and the capability that you could chase up with what you require, what kind of time frame are we looking at? And the demand for electricity, is it largely driven by the industries that is coming up within the country, or is it just the people who are today not having a lot of access to electricity supply?
Even small rentals. Okay, all right.
The industry basically, I just mentioned to you, but for example, the IT, the telecom industry, as we mentioned, was one of the big ones which in Pakistan. It gave a lot of opportunity with regard to opening up of the sector, and suddenly there was a big boost and you started with the call centers was one of them, and then the big mobile companies coming into Pakistan, and they had to, they gave a lot of jobs. But what I think basically, we have a youth bulge of 60% between the age of 18 to 35, or 40, you can say, something like that kind. And the unemployment rate is about 6% plus as of now, as per the data. Maybe the actual may be a little different. What we are basically with these two, for example, Pakistan-China corridor, economic corridor activities is one of the factors in which we think that there's a lot of activity, economic activity with regard to the infrastructure, building of roads, the power plants, that will definitely take some number. Within Pakistan, the textile industry definitely, if it grows more, will absorb a lot of people, youngsters. But on the other hand, the IT sector, I think, is the next big one, which is going to because everybody can't have degrees or have graduate. There was a time in Pakistan that polytechnic education was a very important thing. I remember once we finished grade 8, the board people came and took our exam just to see which aptitude was for which student. And I don't know whether it's done now or not, but I still remember very much, and that was done. Over the period, I think we have to, the approach has changed, and the younger lot is more into these short-term courses of computer related. It's very, people who have the comprehension and understanding. In my personal view, it will be this, as you mentioned, it was mentioned, the e-commerce thing and all of those things. I think IT sector will be the one which will definitely play its major role, because it is easy. Now, the government for its part is giving youth loans basically up to the range of 1 million rupees, kind of on a very easy terms. The purpose is to come up with a startup kind of a thing. And it's been given on probably, I believe, on 50% on to girls as well as to the boys, so that everybody can get used to it. How they do it in a way that it's only either concentrated on the big cities or the smaller towns and all, because the spread is this much. I think it will be a big advantage if it goes into the smaller towns and all. And we have a trend of a huge urbanization, and that is why this demand for housing and all builds up because in rural areas people can manage with their own houses and all. The pressure comes onto the big cities. So if the whole this growth thing is evenly spread out, I think that will be great on that. Yep. Power, definitely. Right now, as I said, we are doing load management. In certain areas we are having no electricity for certain hours, and depending on the area, the cities are given lesser, rural areas are better. The demand or the build-up of this area, this whole project will take. There are some shorter term projects which can be ready between a period of 3 to 5 years, and 5 to 7 hydro projects take a little longer time. It can go to 5. But what they are envisaging is at least to break even, to come to the minimum requirement in a period of about 3 to 5 years. That is what they are looking at. It all depends how the project goes and if the calculations go okay, because thermal is the most easiest. You build up and just put furnace oil and start building all that. But the cost factor is minimum. We even went for, because in Pakistan we have a lot of producing of IPPs, which were brought from outside. We even have a ship standing on our Karachi port which produces electricity, and because of the terms of condition, people, the government changed and things went to the court, and the terms of transactions were not correct, so I think things went back. But the power of projects, because they have the capacity to, it's only a cycle, because the production, and its distribution and the management with regard to collection of billing, that's a big issue in Pakistan also. The government is trying to privatize as much possible, so that for example, city of Karachi, it's totally independent, with the private sector, so they have bought it out, done their own investment with regard to improvement of existing infrastructure and all those things. So I think that will be the way out to start with. And the projects, it will take 3 to 5 years to really be on the normal.
So within the city itself, you're still doing the
management. That we have a national grid system in which wherever the whole country is connected. It's in certain places, it's not that there's a breakdown. So from other side it is given. Because I've seen I've served in Central Asia. The Russian system was that they were producing in one place. So in one country where it has a dam, but they could not give it to the other part of the country, it was not connected. So they were selling to the neighbors. And there are load shedding in the capital. So we're not into that situation. We have a national grid system and a lot of things. And definitely with improvement of infrastructure and with more power coming in, I think we'll be able to manage that.
Is your question also, is there a demand for small generators to make up in between?
Yeah, that is. This industry, I think, made so much money. The people of you can't imagine. It's because
this is what High Commissioner means by policy mismatch in the ship. That is corruption, in other words. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll have to bring this very interesting discussion to a close now, but happily not before I'm able to give you a small token of our appreciation for being here with us. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting discussion, and we might continue our interactions over a cup of coffee, tea on the foyer. Thank you. Thank you very much.